I remember going to the Coliseum and watching my dad play in an adult hockey league. And then when I was 11 years old, I finally barraged my dad enough where he let me play hockey. My name is Chris, and I play ice hockey for the Junior Fuel.
I met Chris in December of 2016. He came in complaining of low back pain that initially wasn't too bad, but over the course of a week got pretty severe, such that he couldn't get out on the ice to play hockey anymore.
Growing up, I played pretty much every single sport known to man.
On the ice, he's extremely aggressive. His parents would describe him as the kid you wouldn't want your kid skating against. But when you meet him in person off the ice, he's quiet, he's very kind, very intelligent.
Right after weightlifting, I'd have to lay on the ground. I could barely walk. I was skating and I felt my back like pop, and I fell to the ice and I couldn't stand up or skate. My mom ended up getting me an appointment with Dr. Fean the next morning.
He was pretty uncomfortable the first time I saw him, and so there was some pressure to initially get him feeling more comfortable, but then down the road, getting him back on the ice as quickly as possible. His pain was worse with pretty much any movement. Flexing forward really caused him a lot of pain. I did a good exam of him, and based on his exam and his history, they concluded that his pain was likely due to a bulging disc in his back.
The next step was physical therapy with Ryan McNeely.
Chris just injured his back doing some weightlifting and then landed in my office after seeing Dr. Fean and with some back pain that was going down the leg a little bit.
Ryan and the other physical therapists at Hendricks work very closely with myself and my colleagues. In Brownsburg and in Avon, they're right next door to us.
We started to realize really quick that as we added weight, looking at how he would go through a squat, doing it with no weight, he'd do fine. But as we added weight, he had to compensate. His back wasn't strong enough to handle putting that kind of force on his shoulders. The disc space that was right next to it started to bulge out a little bit, and that hits the nerve, and once you hit a nerve in your back, it all stops. You can't do anything after that.
I went through how I typically treat bulging discs. I usually recommend somebody get started on a strong anti-inflammatory or a steroid burst, and then get started with physical therapy. And so I talked that over with Chris and his parents, and we've agreed to do that approach.
Dr. Fean identified what it was. It was my job then to figure out why. We did a little bit of traction to try to spread out and stretch out some of the disc injuries that was going on in his back.
First time I had traction, finally released that pressure that was building up.
I try to prepare all my patients, including Chris, that nothing's really a quick fix. So it's going to be a process. We're going to hopefully do something that's going to get his pain under control, but then in order to get him back on the ice, it's going to be some work on his part. But he's very resilient. He comes in with injuries, but his expectation is to get back soon, and he's reasonable about the treatment as well.
I first started baseball when I was 5 years old. I currently play at Brownsburg High School, and it was my first varsity game. The pitcher threw a wild ball, and I jumped up to grab it, and it hit the wrong spot of the glove. My thumb was dislocated. After that, it was all swollen. I kept playing because I wanted to push through the injury. We had a Hendricks Regional Health trainer at the game that works for the school. The trainer told me that I should probably go get it checked out if it was still swollen.
Unfortunately, the x-ray showed a fracture, which sidelined him for a bit, but he ended up getting back in the summer.
Dr. Fean always had a solution to the problem.
I'm the team physician at Brownsburg High School. I go out to the training room once a week and do an injury check, and then I'm also in really close contact with the athletic trainers at both of our middle schools as well as our high school.
Dr. Fean is a very valuable member of our athletic team. She's here on a weekly basis. With our partnership with Hendricks, they're our first resource. That when you have a student athlete that you have a question about or an injury, we want to seek their guidance first, because they are going to be the team that gets us back on the court or the floor.
They're very in the moment when they're younger, and they don't tend to think about their future. So I try to remind them that maybe this doesn't seem like that big of a deal now, but you might pay the consequence in the future if you don't treat it appropriately.
Besides the stretches and exercises to make those injuries better, they also gave me different stretches and exercises to make sure that it doesn't happen to other parts of my body. Without these tips, then I would probably get hurt again. They know what they're talking about. Follow their plans, then you'll get stronger in areas that you wouldn't have before, and you also become more injury resistant.
Request an appointment at hendricks.org/sportsmedicine.